All right. Okay, so welcome everybody to today's workshop slash webinar. I'm Stefan Wiedner and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Noomii.com. The title of today's presentation is Your Coaching Business by the Numbers. And so we'll talk about the numbers. Now, before we jump into the heart of the matter, I'd love to hear from maybe a couple of you why you jumped onto the call and what you're hoping to get out of today. Sort of what sort of was the deciding factor for you, if a couple of people would care to share. What are you hoping to get out of today's call? Anybody?
Yeah.
Michaela, go ahead. Was that you trying to say something?
Yes, it was.
Okay, go ahead.
I was just going to say I'm just always open for new training opportunities. You know, I'm in the second quarter of my life coaching business, so I'm just looking to grow it. And I think this will be a great webinar to show me how to do so.
Okay, great. Anybody else?
Yeah, so this is Adriana Neto. I really just started coaching in 2017. And throughout the year, I basically had about 20 clients, but never at the same time. So I'm hoping that the coaching business by the numbers has something to do with how to grow my client base.
Absolutely does. Okay, great. Anybody else? How many of you have put together some numbers and maybe you're just looking to see if you've done it right, or if there's like some additional insights that you can get? Or is there someone who's just never put together any sort of projections or numbers for their business at all? Who's in either one of those camps? Anybody? Lynn, how about you? Have you put some numbers together before, or is this like brand new to you?
No, I haven't. We're starting from scratch. I'm just starting my new year. Well, it's the 17th, so kind of. I've been working a lot on blogging and reaching out, but I haven't actually put, in terms of coaching, numbers and dollar amounts down yet.
Okay, so wherever you are, whether you've been coaching for maybe just a few months or a few years, hopefully you get some good value out of today as we look at your coaching business by the numbers. So let's just move on. So we're doing this as part of our launch. Well, I wouldn't say a launch. It's more of we've opened the doors for our group coaching program called Deliberate Growth. And I'll be telling you a little bit about that later. But the intent here is for you to, of course, we're promoting our group coaching program. We'd love to see you participate in that. But at the end of the day, I want you to get good, tremendous value out of today's call, whether or not you participate in the group coaching program. But I will tell you a little bit about it towards the end of the call. I'm just going to mute some lines here because it's I'm getting a lot of background noise. If you could just mute your own line, please, that'd be great. Where is that? I'm not getting the little mute thing. There we go. If you could mute your lines, please, that'd be wonderful. Okay, let's carry on. So what's our mission? I want to start with the big picture. Our mission is to spread coaching to the masses. And we do that in a couple different ways. So the first way is obviously through the directory. We help people find coaches, we match coaches with clients, but also we want to help coaches with their businesses. I'm sorry, the background is really distracting. I'm having a hard time there we go. Just gonna mute some lines. There we go. Much better, thank you. Okay. So our mission is to spread coaching to the masses. We do that through matching coaches and clients, but we also want to do that by helping coaches build their businesses. And we have Coach Marketing Bootcamp, which is an online program inside Noomii U. You can go through that. We have the Coaching Circle, various other services. So the way we see it is, yeah, sure, we can match coaches and clients, but by helping you build your businesses, you're going to be able to sort of spread your tentacles out further and reach more people than we of course could do on our own. So we see this as very much a partnership. You know, we're working with you, we're helping you, and we're all working together to kind of spread the power of coaching. So what's the problem here? Why are we putting this program, this webinar and workshop together at all? Well, a number of 2 or maybe 3 years ago now, I had the opportunity of going to the Berkshire Hathaway AGM. You're probably all familiar with this gentleman. His name's Warren Buffett, and he's one of the richest men in the world, one of the most successful business owners. And if you've ever heard about the Berkshire Hathaway AGM, it's really it should maybe be called the Warren Buffett show, and it's very entertaining and it's amazing. It started out with just a few different investors and shareholders all in a room, and it eventually expanded and expanded and expanded, and now they fill up a stadium. There's something like 15 to 20,000 people all in a sports stadium listening to his every single word. And it's quite a spectacle. And at one point, sort of a defining moment for me was there's this young finance student, or I'm assuming he was a finance student, stepped up to the mic because there's open Q&A opportunities. And so this young gentleman steps up to the mic and starts quizzing Warren on one of his portfolio companies and how to be honest, I don't even know what he was saying. He was talking about like capital appreciation and blah, 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 all these terms that I was totally unfamiliar with. And, you know, he very gracefully put this young guy in his place and said, you know what, you're looking at the numbers wrong. I appreciate your perspective, but here's why you're wrong, and here's how you need to be looking at it. And, you know, he went on and on and on. And I was like, oh man, that's so awesome. And so, you know, the bottom line is he knows the numbers of not just his own company, but every single portfolio company. And they know the numbers very intimately. And it's super important. I think that's one of the habits of a really successful coach, is that they are tracking their numbers, they know their numbers, and they're operating their business by the numbers. They're not just like running, you know, they say if you have a hobby, you're going to get hobby-like results, right? So if you're running it like a business, you're going to get business-like results. So that's what I hope for you here today. Okay, so with every big endeavor, I think you want to start with the dream and then you work backwards. And that's partly what the numbers are all about. So while I would love to just sort of jump into the numbers, I don't want to forget, like, you know, the inspiration for our work in the first place. And so I think step number one with developing your numbers is looking at your coaching nirvana and your why. So what is coaching nirvana? Well, we've interviewed a whole bunch of coaches that have all built successful businesses, and it seems that they all get to this place where they're hardly having to do any marketing at all. And it's because they planted all these seeds, and now they're generating results for them out into the future. And so that's their coaching nirvana. And it, you know, it's kind of like a real place that I would love for you to get to. And in addition, as you define your own coaching nirvana, it'd be great to include things like where you're working and how many days and what types of clients, and, you know, get really inspired by it. And then that leads to your why. Why are you doing this work in the first place? And I think it's really good to have that articulated and written down. And it could be as simple as 1 or 2 sentences. It doesn't have to be a really lengthy thing, but it's your motivation in the short term. When, you know, because with every business endeavor, there's highs and there's lows, and there's moments when you're totally kicking butt, and other days that feel like you're in the doldrums. And staying connected to your why helps keep the motivation high. So I'd say that's step number one. Maybe so we can all get a little bit inspired and motivated. Does anyone care to share like their why for coaching? Like, why are you coaching?
This is Adrienne again. Yeah, so the reason why I coach is I was in senior management in a very large organization for a long time. I hired a lot of people. I mentored. I supervised a lot. Helped build some careers there, and I got very positive feedback. And so I thought, well, when I go into another chapter of my life, wouldn't it be great to do this and do something that I believe I have a lot to offer with?
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else? Your why?
Yeah, I'll share. I'm Daniel
Thank you.
Fung. My why is that during my childhood days, I was sort of forced into a lot of things that I didn't want to do, and I was able to overcome that. And I want to help people start living their own dreams, not other people's dreams.
Thank you for sharing, Daniel. Anybody else? Let's hear from maybe one more person, then we'll move on.
I'll share. It's Michaela.
Hi, Michaela.
All right. Well, I really got into coaching pretty organically. I've been in the education industry for 13 years, and a lot of that is about motivating and keeping people engaged and seeing their dreams through. And so that's one of the reasons I got into coaching, because I'm able to do that now on a more one-on-one basis, help people see that aha.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, so let's, I'm glad you're all connected with your why and you have an image of your future coaching nirvana. So let's move on. Step two. So what's, I think step two is to more clearly define your revenue goal. And since we're at the beginning of 2018, let's define that goal for 2018. So you might have a 3 or 5 year goal, and that'd be great if you wrote that down. I think having a 1 year goal, let's start there in this conversation. So you want to have, and this is where you can all pull out your piece of paper, and if you haven't written it down already, by the end of 2018, I will, and then just sort of fill in the blank. What kind of revenue will you be generating? So most often I kind of get a little bit, I put my blinders on a little bit and focus on having an answer something like, by the end of the year, I'll be coaching 20 clients at $500 per month per client, which will gross $10,000 a month, something like that. But I'm sure some of you are doing things other than coaching, or maybe you're consultants, or maybe trainers, or you have some other business that's generating revenue for you, and the coaching is maybe just one aspect of it. So in that regard, you would want to define revenue goals for your whole business, but then maybe focus for this conversation just on the ones regarding coaching. And you may want to have like 2 different line items. For example, you may want to say, well, I anticipate or want to have X number of clients and revenue from my coaching consulting business side of the business, and then coaching, I would like to expand that in 2018 and go from 3 clients up to 10 or something. So I definitely want to leave room for that. So anybody want to care to share what their goals are for 2018, their revenue goals?
I'll share.
Thank you, Claire. Go ahead.
So my revenue goal for 2018 is to be making a living from my coaching business.
Okay. Do you have any specific numbers around that?
Yeah.
What would it make?
So I've got 20 clients, seeing them twice a month. That would cover it.
Excellent. 20 clients twice a month. Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody else care to share their revenue goals?
It's Daniel. For me, it's $10,000 a month.
Okay. And do you know how many clients that will take, Daniel?
I'm looking at around between 10 and 15.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Let's carry on. So let's look at the next step. So step 3 is to figure out how to increase the number of clients and perhaps your pay rate as well. So you might want to create, maybe the first step is you have a couple columns here. The first one has whatever target or whatever numbers you were at the end of 2017, and then you put over here on the right, by the end of 2018, what your goals are. So it might look something like this. You have a row for clients, so the number of clients so in this case, and this is the example I'm going to work through with you guys. Here's a coach that has 8 clients and they want to get up to 20. And their monthly revenue per client right now is 300, and they'd like to increase that to 500. And so revenue is to go from 2,400 up to 10,000 bucks. I think that would be a pretty darn good year if you can make that happen. So how does that happen? How do you make that happen? And I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking, oh, well, you have to apply the force. And, that can, if you start thinking about the how, that it could get really challenging. You're like, oh man, how am I going to generate all these new leads, etc. And how do I do the marketing, blah, blah, blah. Well, this isn't a marketing exercise right at the moment. It's an accounting exercise. So it's actually quite easy. How do you go from 8 paying clients to 12 paying clients in a year? Well, you just add 1 client per month. It looks something like this. So this is the start of what someone's basic pro forma numbers might look like. So the second row is the number of clients that you have, and the first row is the number of new clients that you're adding. So I've got 12 columns here, January through to the end of the year. And so in this case, I'm assuming that monthly I'll add 1 new client. Boom, done. At the end of the year, I got 20 clients. Well, it's obviously a little bit more challenging than that because there's client attrition. Clients are not going to stick with you forever. And I don't know what your numbers are, but you definitely want to look at your numbers and try to, over time, estimate how long clients are going to stick with you. Some clients are going to leave after the first session. Others are going to stick around for 2 years. I've talked to coaches that have had clients for literally like 15 years, and those clients will sort of come and go. I mean, they're always their clients, but sometimes they'll work with the coach more, more frequently, right? Like, so they're dealing with some big issues, and so, hey, I need to coach more often. Than other times they might go 1 or 2 months without any coaching sessions at all. But anyway, they're still like generating revenue for them month in, month out. And so you want to think about your client attrition, and you want to add a column or a row for that. So you have your new clients and then your lost clients. So I just assumed in this case that you're going to lose 1 client every couple months. And it's maybe not a perfect formula. You may want to have a formula that you create, which is dependent on the actual number of clients that you have. So as your total number of clients goes up, you're probably going to lose more clients, right? Like if you're at 3 clients, you're not going to lose 3 clients every month. But if you're at 25 clients, well, you're probably more likely to lose 1 or 2 clients every single month thereafter. That's quite a possibility, depending on your business model and how you conduct your coaching. But anyway, you want to build that into your model here. So in this case, because I assumed you're losing 1 client every 2 months, that means in order to maintain that goal of 20 clients down here at the bottom right, you need to be adding 2 clients every second month. So on average, you're adding 1.5 clients per month, or 18 for the year. So in order to go from 8 to 20, you're not adding 12 clients, you're adding 18 clients in this scenario. Maybe it's even more than that if your client attrition rate is a little higher. So it's definitely something you want to figure out. And I know this first occurred to me when I was going through my coach training, and you need to have a minimum of 6 clients or 5 clients or something. This is through the certification program with CTI. And I think I had 6 clients. And I thought, well, it's only going to go up from here. And then the next month I had to report my numbers, and I was down to 5. And it was like, whoa. It's like when I first started coaching, I didn't even think about the possibility that someone might not continue to work with me forever. It just didn't even enter my consciousness, but it's a reality. Clients are not going to stick around forever, and you want to build that into your model. Okay, so obviously this is just a model, and you need to achieve these numbers. So the next question is, how do we do that? And so the next step is to reverse engineer the sales funnel. So many of you have probably seen something like this, a sales funnel. You have leads at the top, then you have prospects, and then you have clients, right? And it's shaped like a funnel because at the top you have lots of people, and at the bottom you have fewer people, right? You start with maybe 100 people at the top, and down at the bottom you end up with 2 or 3 or 4 paying clients. So you're probably all familiar with something like that. But let's look at it a little more closely for coaching. And in order to also give you an idea of what a sales funnel might look like, I want to share my personal experience. I started a company in college and university, and we called it ESP Painters, Experienced Student Painters. It's kind of an oxymoron, but we thought the acronym was clever, ESP. So anyway, here's how we generate a business. And this was like super eye-opening for me when this was sort of mapped out in this way. How do you get clients as a painter? Well, first of all, we would drive around neighborhoods and find neighborhoods where houses needed to be painted. And you're not going to go to a brand new subdivision and expect that you're going to get many clients out of it. So we sort of found neighborhoods where houses were in need of paint jobs. Then we went around and we canvassed the neighborhood with flyers. So you're probably all familiar with the little flyers. You hook them on the door and it says, hey, you know, we're in the neighborhood, get a free estimate. And so then the next day, after we submitted or handed out the flyers, we would go knock on every single one of the doors. And so let's say we handed out 100 flyers, and then we went and knocked on doors the next day, usually around dinner time when people were home. We might get 40 doors opened. And so for every one of those 40 doors, we'd say, hey, do you want a free estimate? Out of those 40 doors that opened, we might be able to provide 3 estimates. I don't remember what the numbers were exactly, but this is, you know, pretty close anyway. And so out of 40 people, maybe 3 would say, yeah, sure, give me an estimate. And then at the end of that, we'd maybe book 1 sale. So working our way backwards, if we wanted to get 10 sales, you just sort of work your way back up the funnel, right? So to get 10 sales, that means we have to provide 30 estimates, which means we have to get 400 doors to be opened up. And then in order to do that, we need to be handing out 1,000 flyers. So we want to apply that same sort of logic and a chain of events to your numbers. And remember, if we go back here, what we're trying to do is we're starting with sort of the bottom of the funnel, right? We're starting with adding 1 new or maybe 2 new clients every single month. And so we have to ask ourselves, well, how do we do that? Let's work, what are the numbers we need to be concentrating on? And so here's what a coaching sales funnel might look like. I know there's probably several, and your numbers, everybody's conversion rates might be slightly different depending on how they do it. But here's a very good, I'd say, baseline. So you have a coaching conversation with someone. And what do I mean by that? I mean, you're just telling them about your coaching. You're not necessarily giving them a coaching sample session. I think that's a little bit different. Instead, you're just talking to them about your business. Maybe it's at a networking event, or maybe you pick up the phone and just call someone. So you want to have, let's say, 10 conversations. And then if it's right in that conversation, maybe you say, you know what, based on where you're at in your business or career or life, you know, I think it would be, I'd love to work with you. I think it'd be a great opportunity. I think I can really help you out. And would you like to have a free sample session? Let's schedule something next week, and I can give you an experience of coaching. And so maybe you make 5 offers out of those 10 conversations. Out of those 5 offers, maybe 3 people go, yeah, okay, that sounds good. Let's schedule something. So you deliver 3 consultations. And then as a result of those 3 consultations, maybe you get 1 sale. So if that's the sales funnel, if it's something like that, and sure, at the beginning when you don't really have perfect numbers, you just have to put in estimates. You have to just guess and make some assumptions. And over time, you'll start to get really good numbers that will become very predictive, so that eventually you'll get to know, like, oh, if I have 10 conversations, I know exactly how many sales I'll have down at the bottom here. So coming back to the metrics, the spreadsheet might look something like this. So what I've done is, based from the previous slide there, I've added 3 more rows. So the number of conversations you have, the number of offers you deliver, and then the number of consultations you deliver. So I've just taken these numbers, 10, 5, 3, and 1, and plugged them in here, because in the month of January, I said I'm going to get 1 new client. So therefore, I need to have 10 conversations, 5 offers, and 3 consultations. And from that, I should get 1 client. And then in February, because I said I'd get 2 new clients, all the numbers are just doubled. And so, the answer now is, like, so the question being, how do I go from 12 to 18 clients, or 8 to 20 clients in a year? The answer is quite simple in this model, where you just have to have 10 to 20 conversations on average. That's going to be 15 conversations per month. That's 1 every 2 days. That's not so hard. Now, this is also a little bit simplistic, right? I haven't included other means of generating clients. You would want to build that into your model as well. So I want you to make your own sales projections. I've created, so basically this spreadsheet that you see right here is right here. So it's a Google spreadsheet. So if you go to bit.ly/coach performas, you'll find a spreadsheet that looks very similar to this. I've added some, in that spreadsheet, I'd added some formulas in here, or some percentage conversion rates rather. So the conversion rate from conversations to offers here is 50%, right? So 1 out of every 2 of these leads to an offer, and then 3 out of 5. So this is 60% conversion. And then from here to here is a 33% conversion. And so I've added those percentages in. And the reason why I add them in every single month is so that you can go ahead and potentially tweak them, right? The idea is your percentage or your conversion rates are going to improve over time. So again, here's the link, so you can go ahead and muck around in your own version of the performas. And there's instructions right there, and you can't edit the file itself. You need to make your own copy, so you can add it to your own Google Drive if you have a Google account, or you can download it as an Excel file and then muck around in Excel as much as you want. Any questions on getting this document and using it for yourself? Anybody unfamiliar with how to use or save these files? Anyway, maybe we can save those conversations for after. So does that all make sense? I'm going to go into a little bit more detail, but any question, I want to just sort of stop, and does this all make sense? This process of looking at the sales funnel, reverse engineering it, and then putting those numbers into a spreadsheet like this, or into a table.
Stephen?
Yes.
Stefan, I should say. I apologize. It's Stefan, correct?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, thanks. Just to help me envision this better, it's a great spreadsheet model. In your process, what would be the difference between a conversation and a consultation?
So the distinction I'm making is that a conversation is more of you're kind of just introducing yourself to someone, whereas a consultation is very much it's a sample session. You are specifically delivering to them a sample session.
Right.
And
okay.
you know, it is a little bit like some coaches will do like a 2-hour coaching, like they'll do a 2-hour coaching session before someone ever hires them. That's part of their process, right? So that's very clear. It's like, we are now coaching, versus, hey Jim, nice to meet you. What do you do? You know, right. And then that's more of a conversation. So that's the distinction I'm making here. That's Anybody perfect. Else? Yeah. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions about this? Who was it, by the way, that just asked that question?
It's Richard Nelson here.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
From Canada. Yep.
Hey, right on. There's a number of Canadians on this call, as well as South Africans.
Oh, neat. Power of technology and your reach.
Is your webinar going to be shared or be available for review afterwards?
Yeah, so I am recording this and I'll be sharing it. So if you registered, you'll get an email likely today or for sure tomorrow that says, here's the recording. So you'll be able to re-listen to it.
Thanks.
Any other questions so far?
This is Sheila. Would you mind copying that link and placing it in the chat? When I go to click on it, it tells me there's an error when I go to type it in.
Sure. Let's see if I can do that.
Thanks.
Oh, now it's taking me to the file. Haha. Where's the chat? So it's bit.ly/coachproformas. Oh, I don't think that comes through as a URL. Is that clickable? Do you see that in the chat?
I do. That was perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, that works. You can click on it.
Perfect. Thank you.
There, that one seems better. I put in the HTTP. Okay, well, let's carry on. So I want to talk a little bit more about sales funnels and make this maybe a little bit more complex. Oh, let me see. Oh, good. Okay, let's carry on. So like I said earlier, so suddenly it's not so difficult and mystifying to know, well, how are you going to go from 8 to 20 clients? It's easy in this scenario anyway. You need to have 15 coaching conversations each month. That's one every 2 days. All right, so it helps you sort of break things down and focus on, rather than focus on the outcome, which is the total number of clients you want, but instead be focusing on the inputs. It's sort of like, imagine if you had a coaching client that wanted to lose weight. They might be totally focused on their weight and measuring their weight every day. But really, the thing they probably should be measuring instead is, let's say, the number of footsteps they take every day. And don't you think it's true that if you said, look, if you take 10 to 15,000 steps every single day, you don't even have to measure your weight. There's likely to be some benefit improvement to your overall weight. And so that's the same sort of thing here. Instead of focusing on the outcome, you want to focus on the KPI is often what it's called, the key performance indicator. So it's the thing that's going to help generate the results. It's the number that's important for generating the results. And that's what you want to be focusing on every single month. So rather than focusing, especially at the beginning, right? If you're starting a new initiative where you're reaching out and talking to people, you may not generate that many clients right away because you're tweaking and you're adjusting and seeds are getting planted. And some people will get back to you next month or next quarter. And so the more conversations you have, what you want to be tracking is, yes, I did have those conversations, trusting that in the future, those will pan out and the total number of clients that you get. Okay, so let's talk about another sales funnel. I wanted to mention one of, let's say, blogging. Many of you probably blog or do some form of writing. Well, here's what a sales funnel might look like for blogging. And this is also something you can include into your performa, right? So let's say you write 20 articles a month. That's a lot. But based on data, you can look at the total number of articles that you publish, and you can get 5,000 readers, let's say. And out of those 5,000 readers, maybe you get 50 subscribers. And then based on your email communication with those 50 subscribers, you know that you can reliably get, let's say, 3 consultations, because that might be your main offer or something you always add at the bottom of your email. Excuse me. Hey, take me up on a free consultation, schedule it here. Or maybe you call it something different. Maybe you call it your business strategy session or whatever. And so now, because you have consultations, that's one of the rows in the other business model, or the other sales funnel rather. Now you can include this, and you can start to sort of predict and budget your figure out how many leads you're going to generate from your blogging. And then there's I want to get here. There's all sorts of different sales funnels. There's ones relating to joint ventures, writing a book, webinars, meetups, networking groups, social media, getting referrals from existing or old clients, building a referral network, summits, conferences, all these sorts of activities. You could build them into your sales funnel. So maybe, or into your numbers. So one suggestion would be that you maybe have a row in your spreadsheet for every source of clients that you have. And over time, those sources might get more and more robust. So maybe you have your website's up and you did a bunch of writing once upon a time. So now you can reliably get 1 lead every single month. Someone's going to fill out your contact me form every single month based on your website. And then because you're active on at some BNI group or something like that, you know that you're likely to get 1 lead from that. So you can just go ahead and fill in all of your sources and add numbers for each month, so that you know at the end of every month where your sources are coming from, and you can start to rely on that, with a little more predictability, so that eventually you'll know what your revenue is going to be with a decent amount of reliability. So does that make sense? And each one of these might have a slightly different sales funnel that'll look, you know, something like this. Maybe let's quickly talk about like a sales funnel. So does someone want to quickly discuss a method that they use to get clients? And let's break down the sales funnel and roughly figure out what that looks like. Anybody want to discuss a particular marketing approach they'd like to work with? Something they're thinking about or are already doing? Like, for instance, webinars. Has anybody done webinars before?
Yeah.
Who's that speaking? Or social media, for instance. Is anybody having any success on social media?
How about a simple funnel that would use LinkedIn?
Ah, okay, good one. Well, what do you think? What does the sales funnel look like? I've got a few ideas, and I can throw some things out.
What if we did? So you invite people to connect. Would be the top of the funnel.
Yep.
So there's a bit of, you know, targeting your ideal client and that sort of thing involved in searching your target out. But let's say you send an invitation to connect as the first step. The second step might be send a thank you note to those people that accept your invitation. The third step might be send them an interesting article link. And then the fourth step might be conversations. Invitation to have a conversation.
Yep. And now you're into kind of a more regular sales cycle, right? Where you're
right.
So you're now having that first conversation. Maybe you then offer them your strategy session at a separate time, and then you're asking for the business.
Yeah, I think that would produce a good result.
Yeah, something like that. So
Even
then
simple.
and so eventually you'll start to develop some numbers around that, right? So maybe for every 10 people that you invite to connect into their network, you might get, what, 50% adoption rate? Like maybe 50% will say yes and the other 50% won't accept.
Yep.
Right?
That's realistic.
And then, so let's say you start with 100 people. So now you're down to 50. So 50 are now connected with you. You send out 50 thank yous. You send out 50 invitations for a conversation. Out of that, you might get, I don't know, 10 conversations, maybe 5.
Sure. Yep.
Let's say it's 5. And then out of those 5, you might get 3 consultations and then 1 client.
Exactly. Could I mention as well, just because it happens all the time, the thank you step is an important part of the funnel process. It's just not appropriate on LinkedIn anyway to go straight from a person that accepts your invitation to connect and then you send them a sales type offer right up front. You've got to thank them. You've got to take the time to nurture it a little bit. I mean, the more nurturing, the better, but you know, at least send an article, then go to the actual direct conversation.
Yeah, great points. And I think that's sort of touching on the fact that with every sales funnel that you create, it takes time and effort to kind of refine it and get good at it, right? You're not necessarily going to hit a home run your first at bat. And so you need to try stuff out, tweak it, adjust it, try to understand the clients and why they're not, or why they are reacting the way they are, or why they're not, and then adjusting So those are all really good suggestions. And there might be better strategies. Like, for instance, LinkedIn, of course, has lots of groups. And so maybe what you'll discover is that if you're really active within those groups and offering really good, useful information, more people are going to look at your LinkedIn profile and then reach out to you that way. Or you could reach out to them only after you have shared information and valuable content with them in that context of the LinkedIn group, something that you both have in common. I think it's similar to what you're talking about, but slightly different context. That all make sense? What else? I wanted to say something more about LinkedIn, but I forgot. How about other social media platforms, like Twitter or Facebook? Anybody have any success there or desire to operate in that environment? Or meetup groups, or networking groups? Anybody have any success there? What does that look like? What does the sales funnel look like there when you go to a networking group? So from my experience with networking groups, depends on the type of networking group. Some networking groups are specifically designed to provide referrals to each other. So the idea being, hey, we're all in this together. We're all business owners, and let's send business leads to each other. So what you're trying to do there is you're trying to send. So maybe it's more of a, help others first and then be helped kind of mentality. So what you want to do there is be actively trying to send other people clients, and that's one massive way for them to remember that you are part of the group and that you exist, and then they'll reciprocate. And the idea being you want to get it to the point where they're feeling kind of uncomfortable and feeling the need to really reciprocate, because you've just given them so much value by referring them to potential clients. So there, the top of the funnel is you refer other people to your fellow networking members. And then maybe the next step is you just follow up with them and send them more additional useful information like articles. And then the next step is to maybe ask them more specifically for any referrals if they aren't already sending you some. Just say, hey, do you happen to know anybody who might be interested in coaching? And so if you're managing your list there, you would likely develop some really consistent data. So if you're reaching out to 50 people each month, you're going to generate a predictable amount of referrals every single month from those other sources. And the top of the funnel activity is you going out trying to refer other people to your fellow colleagues. Okay, so let's I wanted to talk about one more thing. So the last step is obviously taking action. And you can put together any business, you can put on all the numbers you want. Again, this is sort of like an accounting activity, right? You can put all the numbers you want in there, and unless you start taking action on the numbers that you're putting in there, it's kind of useless. You have to be taking action. And there's primarily two forms of action. The first one that I talked about, that coaching sales funnel, is primarily what I would call a hunting activity. And I want to make a distinction between these two things because I think they're really important. Both based on the image here, there's hunting and then there's farming. And I think they're both different and they're both beneficial in different basis. So what's a hunting activity? A hunting activity is one where you're actively trying to engage people and bring them into your business. So it's sort of like push marketing. And the benefit with hunting activities is that it yields results right away. or more immediately than does farming. If you think about it, a caveman will go out, clobber some animal over the head, and now he gets to eat for the next day. But then when that food is gone, now he has to go back out and do the same thing over and over and over again. So there's no sort of sustainability. It's very short term, it's immediate. And when you're first starting out and you need new clients, you need to be doing some hunting. You need to be going out there, having active conversations with people, telling them about coaching, having them experience coaching through coaching consultations, etc. There's so many people out there that can benefit from coaching, but unless they experience it firsthand, they're not likely to hire anybody. So and then what's the benefit of farming? Well, farming is you plant seeds today and you harvest them sometime out into the future, and perhaps even consistently over time. Like an apple tree, for example, you plant that today, you might not get any fruit for 3-4 years, but then when you do, you get an abundance of it over time. And we talked about 2 different sales funnels. The first there where I said you're out there, you're having conversations. The second one around blogging. And I would argue that blogging is much more of a farming tactic, because you might blog every day for a year, get a bunch of readers out of it, and then stop blogging and still continue to get traffic thereafter. So those seeds you plant in that first year can produce results for you in the second, third, and fourth years. I created a website. My very first coaching website is called youngbloodcoaching.com. And I still have that website, and I still get leads from that. I haven't touched that website in like a dozen years, but it's still out there in the blogosphere or out there in the interwebs and still getting some traffic, albeit not a lot. But I also haven't touched it in 12 years. So that's an example of a farming tactic. And there's a bunch of different tactics we already talked about. Let's say going to networking events. Some of those are a little bit more immediate than others, right? Like you might get a referral right away, but you also have to sort of nurture your list and your people that you're networking with, and they won't necessarily pay off right away because they don't necessarily know and trust you. It might take a few months. And so, that's partly farming, it's partly hunting, sort of a blend. And you want to be thinking about doing both. And what we've experienced over time is that the most successful coaches that get to this place of coaching nirvana, they start out doing a lot of hunting. And in the end, they're doing almost nothing, because they're farming, and all these seeds that they planted years and months ago are all yielding results now, today, in the present. So that's something you want to be thinking about as you're building your business and as you're taking action. Is this blend between hunting and farming. And don't discount the hunting piece, that active piece, part where you're going out there and you're having those conversations. I can't kind of express that enough, how important that is, because that's how you can really touch lives most directly. Any questions about hunting or farming? Any comments? Okay, so I want to move into the last little piece here, which is, we already covered this. So there's all these different marketing activities, and there's more. There's absolutely more. There's lots of them. And you can build all of these into your numbers, into your spreadsheet. The last thing I want to talk about is this presentation we put together a little while ago called The 7 Habits of Six-Figure Coaches. And we generated this. Obviously, it's sort of a play on the words of The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, the book by Stephen Covey. But the process was also kind of similar. So what did he do? He went out and interviewed all these people to try to uncover what their habits were. And so we did the same sort of thing. We talked to all these 6-figure coaches to find out, what's the secret sauce? What are you doing? And what was interesting is they all built their business using a variety of different marketing channels. Some people built powerful referral networks. Others just maximized LinkedIn. Others were really good at using Facebook. Others were all about advertising. Others were just huge networkers. Some sold from the stage. So they put on lots of workshops and or not webinars, but workshops and seminars, and would sell from the stage, et cetera, et cetera. So there's so many different channels that were successfully used, but then we looked at, well, what was common among all of them? And then that's where we kind of included about these different habits. And one of those habits is that they operate their business by the numbers. I mean, that's what this whole presentation was about, was looking at the numbers. And it's one thing to put the numbers together today in January, the beginning of the year, and sort of map out the next 12 months or even the next 24 months. And it's another to have a process for constantly monitoring and tracking your numbers over time. I think that's an essential piece. And that's what separates someone from being just like someone who's doing a hobby. You know, it's kind of a fun thing they love to do, but they're not really thinking about it as a business. If you're thinking about it as a business, if you're operating a true business, you're tracking the numbers and monitoring them over time and making business decisions and strategic decisions based on the data. And that can be tough to do when you're a solo entrepreneur, right? It's easy to sort of just be in the operations of the business, you know, just be doing the stuff as opposed to stepping back and looking at your entire business. And that brings me to deliberate growth, and the reason why we put it together, the reason why we have this group coaching program in the first place is because we want to support coaches in being able to step outside of the day-to-day operations of their business and look at the bigger picture, look at their numbers, be reporting their numbers on a regular basis. And that's a major part of the group coaching program. It's primarily consisted of two things. The first is being a mastermind call every single month. So we put participants in a group of up to at most 10 members, and those 10 members sit down in a monthly 90-minute call and go over their numbers, and then have an opportunity to get feedback from the group to make sure that their strategy moving forward seems, you know, correct and that they're moving in the right direction. The second is there's always room for more knowledge. I'm going to talk about that here. So learning what to do, right? What do you do? How do you generate leads, etc.? And so we partnered with Sifu Carl Romain. He's the #1 most hired coach on Noomii, and we're not just making that up. We actually look at the data, and he is in fact the #1 most hired coach. And we send him leads that don't look all that promising, and he can still close them. He's really amazing. He's really good at following up and generating really strong relationships with people, and pushing his business forward at all times. And so we want you to be able to learn from the best. And so every 2 weeks, he's hosting a training call where you're able to learn from his process. And he's got 6 modules, and the first one is all about learning the material. He shares that material, and then the second call in every month is more about the application of it, and it's a little more interactive. How's that going? What's working? What's not? Do you have any questions? Kind of thing. And so he, in 6 months, he'll walk through the 6 different modules that he's put together, and then there's the accountability and support. I already talked about that. So 90-minute mastermind calls. There's up to 9 other dedicated members within your group. We also encourage group members to support each other outside of the infrastructure that we've created. And all of this is so that you could be running your numbers. You have your numbers, and you're updating them, you're monitoring them, and you're moving those numbers forward so that you eventually reach your coaching nirvana. And here's the request. It's $258 per month to join the group coaching program, but if you're willing to commit to 6 months, then it's only $129 a month, and you can use a discount code to claim that discount. So that's $129 a month to move your coaching business forward, and we think it's just a sweet deal. There's the link, bit.ly/deliberate growth. I'll put that in the chat. That's a good. So any questions on the group coaching program or today's presentation?
This is Susan. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Susan, go ahead.
Hi. Yes, about the group coaching. Do you have like a handout or an itinerary or syllabus of everything that would be included in the class that he teaches initially?
Yes, I have some information about that. So off the top of my head, so he's talks about similar to what we talked about here. So the first module is about connecting with your purpose, and the next one is about sharing your story. And so he gets participants to create a video around that. So this is all part of the goal with the work that he does is to help you build a body of videos and information and content that people can get access to when they're searching for you. The premise being that if anybody's going to hire you, there's a really good chance that they're going to Google your name, and you want to give them lots of really valuable information to have there. And so videos and articles, and then the next module is all about how to provide, or sorry, how to identify your ideal clients. Then the next is how to answer questions for your ideal clients. Again, this is all about creating this sort of cohesive message and a volume of information that clients can get access to. And then the next module is all about selling, so having that money conversation. And then the last one being all about managing your business by the numbers. So he goes into a little bit more detail than I have here about how to track all your different numbers. And but that's sort of towards the end. So that's the content in a nutshell. And if you go to the, yeah, I can also include that in an email following. We have a nice little diagram that shows the 6 modules. And,
Great.
And you can have a look at that.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions? I see some comments in the chat, so a lot of thank yous. Let's see if there's any other comments. Thank you. You're welcome. Okay, so if you, there's one last slide I want to show you, which is my contact information. So if you want to get a hold of me, if you have any questions about today's presentation or about the group coaching program, send an email to support@Noomii.com, and I'll make sure one of the ladies in the office, one of our support people, Amy, Kristen, or Maria, get the message over to me, or if they can't respond to it themselves. There's also our toll-free number, 1-800-278-1057. That's, of course, if you're in North America. If you're outside of that, just use email. That's going to be a lot easier. All right, I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you, everybody, for participating today. I really appreciate it. Thank you all for being here and taking time out of your day, rather. And stay tuned for the email with the recording of today's webinar, and have yourself an awesome rest of your day and an amazing, fruitful 2018. I hope you guys all at least move towards your 6-figure income and your own coaching nirvana. I wish that for everybody here today. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Stefan.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.